President Barroso, dear Presidents and Director General, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this first Business Europe Day. We gather here today, all together, to discuss a key issue for Europe's recovery. I'm talking about industrial competitiveness. We chose one simple and clear motto for our flagship conference: industry matters. This is very clear. We all know that industry is the backbone of Europe's economy. It counts for 52 million jobs. One job in industry means at least 2 jobs in services. We count for 65% of total research and development investments, 80% of total exports. So industry is really the backbone of the Europe's economy. Industry matters because without a strong industrial base, Europe will not be able to sustain high growth. Industry matters because without a high competitive industry, Europe will not be able to create the jobs of the future. Industry matters because without successful, innovative, well-integrated in the global value chain companies, Europe will not be able to deliver high living standards to citizens, to European citizens. If policymakers want companies to reshore industrial activities in Europe and gain global market share, they must pursue real pro-competitiveness policy. I am myself a chief executive of industrial firm, a European industrial firm, and I know very clearly and also personally that competing globally now is like a war. It's getting tougher and tougher all the time. Making Europe more competitive is so, therefore, a urgent thing. We are here all together. Mr. Barroso, you can see there are here today all the presidents of the most important, I would say, all our national associations. We have also here the presidents of a lot of sectorial associations, which are very important. So we are here all together to say that the business as usual actions are not an option anymore. We want to say this loud and very clear. We must change also the propensity that we saw sometimes to over-regulate, to impose taxes and levies on companies. So we must act now. Tomorrow is too late. Dear President Barroso, we are very honored and grateful that you took the time to be with us today. We know that you have a very busy agenda. The EU-Russia summit is taking place today. We know that you will have a very, I would say, tough time on this. So I therefore go straight to the point. Europe urgently needs a long-term comprehensive strategy for industrial competitiveness. We need an industrial compact. This must become a real priority for EU institution and also for member states. Last week, the Commission adopted crucial proposal on industry, energy, and climate policies. As you know, we said this very clear. Some steps were made in the right direction. We want to underline this. For example, the commitment to avoid the so-called carbon leakage and is in fact investment leakage. So this is good for us. But industry will need much stronger signals to deliver the industrial renaissance you are calling for in the Commission communication. You know, Europe is losing some ground. There is a trend in some countries, some European countries, of deindustrialization. There are some investment leakage. So, as I said before, we must act now. Business Europe have identified 7 key policy drivers to increase industrial investment in Europe. So I go very quickly through these 7 points. First, an energy and climate policy which is more focused on cost competitiveness and security of supply. We all know that if we look at what happened to the cost of energy from 2005 to 2012, in the EU there was an increase of 37%, while, for example, in the US there was a drop of 4%. So we really need a better balance among policy on climate, which we think is very important, but also cost competitive and security of supply. This means a realistic single CO2 reduction target and a clear strategy to avoid investment leakage. The target recently proposed by the European Commission can only be seen as realistic if a binding international climate agreement can be concluded in 2015. This is very important for us. We have to make sure that we are not once again a lone front runner without followers. This is what happened in the past. We don't want that this happen again. We count on the European Council to make sure that rising energy costs will not drive investment out of Europe. Industry needs a clear signal to deliver a renaissance. Second policy recommendation, an ambitious international trade policy. This is very important for us. We know that the European Union is the largest exporter and importer in the world, and we really think that trade is key for European growth and European jobs. So we would like to have, as European companies, a better access to world markets. This means that as Business Europe, we are strongly supporting the European Union's ambitious trade agenda with mainly two of the biggest and most important part of the world. I'm talking about Japan and US. On the US, we really think this is very important. We think that this could be the most powerful instruments to enhance growth without having a rising in public cost. We think that we need this agreement. We know that this agreement will be a difficult one, but we want to work on this. And also, talking about access to market, we think that we have to complete and to have a better single market, not via more legislation, but through smarter regulation and less red tape. Third, innovation. Innovation is very important. We know that manufacturing companies account for 80% of private research investment. We need innovation-friendly framework conditions to be able to turn research results in market products. So we want really to work a lot on innovation. Fourth, efficient infrastructure. We need investment in infrastructure. This is crucial to enable our companies to participate in international value chains, and also this is a strong instrument to go back to growth. So efficient investment in infrastructure is very important. 5, access to finance. We know that the European financial market is still very fragmented. We know that in some countries, mainly in peripheral countries, there is still a strong credit crunch. We have to tackle with this, and we think that banking union is very important. So we really count, and we like that the Council and the European Parliament must make sure that the necessary decisions on the banking union are taken before the election. 6, strengthening labor market flexibility and productivity. This is very important. We know that there is a lot of problem in job creation. There is still vacancies, unfilled vacancies. So our point is that the country-specific recommendation on labor market reform must be implemented. And last but not least, of course, educating for employment in industry. Today, we have thousands of unfilled vacancies because companies cannot find candidates for the right skill, even in countries under EU financial assistance. This is unacceptable. So there is a shortage of curriculum of science, technology, maths. We have to work on apprenticeship. We have to work on vocational training. We have to go on this. So these are our 7 recommendations. Europe's main competitors have put in place convincing industrial strategy. They have these convincing strategies because they clearly prioritized industrial competitiveness. For example, the US, just to give an example, using effective industrial governance tools. To deliver this comprehensive industrial strategy, Business Europe is calling for Europe needs a new industrial governance. What we want that actions follow what we are saying. So actions are very important. So on industrial governance, we would like to underline 3 important things. First, the Competitiveness Council must become a much more active guardian of European competitiveness and speak up when policy proposals would undermine our industrial competitiveness. Second, very important, the heads of state and governments must give a clear sense of direction with deliberate priorities. And the progress made in pro-competitive reforms must be monitored, valued, and measured every year at the Spring EU Council, as we do for growth and employment enhancing reform. So we'd like to have each year the Council of Spring dedicated to to see the progress and to measure the progress in competitiveness on industry. Three, a permanent industrial competitiveness coordination group in the Commission to ensure that all Commission proposals have a positive effect on competitiveness. Business Europe at the beginning was very concerned when we learned that the February European Council meeting on industrial competitiveness has been cancelled, but we decided to remain optimistic. EU leaders now have more time to prepare. They must ensure that the EU Council agrees on a meaningful and comprehensive industrial strategy for Europe on 20 and 21st March. We are fully aware that all the levers to improve competitiveness are not in the Commission hands. Many decisions to improve the investment climate are at the national competence. This is why we think that the country-specific recommendation through which member states coordinate their economic policy and commit to implement structural reforms must also address industrial competitiveness. We also know that the European Parliament plays an increasingly important role, but in the EU institutional system, the Commission plays a crucial impulse role. We are approaching the end of a European institutional term. Decision will be inevitably slowed down around the European election. And the latest IM forecast clearly indicate that European growth is lagging behind. Central and Eastern European countries should grow at the same pace as the US, 2.8 in 2014 and 3 in 2015. Growth is resuming in the euro area, but at much slower pace, 1% in 2014. So there is no time to waste. This Commission, this European Council, and this European Parliament must join forces to put Europe back on the right track. They must clearly show that industry matters to them in all their decisions. Restoring competitiveness will take time, but the impulse must be given now, because now we really need this. We are ready to do our jobs, we are ready to create growth, but we really need the good impulse. I will not say more. All our recommendations are written down in the blueprint for industrial competitiveness, which I now hand out to you, President Barroso. This blueprint is based on an independent study conducted by one of the major research companies in Cologne. Its recommendations are fully endorsed and supported by all our associations across all Europe. We are absolutely convinced that there will be a change in game for European companies if we go on and we try really to work on this policy recommendation. So we are really optimistic. We think that Europe is still a place where we can invest and grow, but really now we need a change, and we are sure that we will have all your collaboration to make this change becoming true. Thank you very much.